Here we are, I've got the Hubsan SpyHawk, got the transmitter with the video. Can you see the video? Yeah?
Yep, sure can.
There you go.
Yep.
And we're going to give it a throw. There we go. Well, we're climbing and I've only got a little bit of throttle on. There we go, the video's starting to get a bit breaky up there. But there we go, that's the video view. Got to keep the transmitter pointed at the plane, they tell me. So you can't do that if you're looking at the screen. You've got to know where the plane is. So there you go, that's, if I turn the transmitter away, it breaks up quite a bit. See, blue screen, blue screen. Blue screen if you turn it away.
Yeah, it does too.
Turn it back, so you've got to have it pointed at the plane. Now, I don't know, that's pretty hard, not as good as goggles, is it?
Nowhere near, eh?
Nowhere near as good as goggles. But the model itself, look, I'm not even touching the controls, I just swing it round. The controls are really, really ineffective, to be totally honest. There's so much stabilisation going on there. Look how much rudder I had on, all it did was a very gentle turn. But there we go, it's in the air, it's flying. Hands off. But see, those gyros aren't that good at stabilising because it is getting tossed around a fair bit, eh? Go back the other way, crank over the rudder, got to keep pointing, crank the rudder over. It's turning and level it out. There you go, let go of the controls and it's all back to good again. It's not very far away at the moment. Unfortunately, the tranny cam microphone was pretty bad, so I'm having to dub this over, and the microphone I'm using now is not a lot better, but this is the tranny cam view of the LCD screen while I was flying the Hubsan SpyHawk. Now you'll notice that there's a lot of reflection from that screen, as I pointed out earlier, and there we go, we've got a blue screen there because the transmitter wasn't pointed quite at the model. Now I'm having to spin around to keep up with the model. You notice how the varying angles of sunlight sometimes outwit the little blinkers on the side of the LCD screen, and notice also how much light's reflected off me when I'm standing with my face to the sun and how that affects the visibility of the LCD. Notice there are more dropouts, mainly because I wasn't quite pointed at the model. It does get, at range, it does get quite sensitive to having the transmitter oriented correctly with the model, which kind of lessens the FPV experience. Now, I was spinning around again, and soon we'll see really bad. This is sun almost shining directly on the LCD as I turn around to keep up with the model. It's quite bad, and it really limits the conditions under which you can fly. And again, with the sun shining on my face, the reflection on that shiny screen was incredibly bright, and more blue screen there, and we'll just watch more blue screen. There we go, we're back now, and I'm lining up I think for an approach at this stage. But as you can see, with the bright contrast sky and the dark ground, making out ground features can be hard, especially with all this ambient light around. So that's tranny cam. There we go, all I'm doing is just keeping the wing level at the moment, a little bit of playing around with the throttle. See, it's not really a high speed model, is it?
Very stable. Very good.
So there it is, it's the Hubsan SpyHawk, and I've got to say right from the outset that Hubsan set themselves a pretty ambitious goal when they decided to make this product. It's not an easy thing to build an all-in-one FPV system that's going to suit the needs of a wide range of people and do it at a price that people can afford, because if you think about it price-wise, I've said $300 to $400 and you think, oh, what a lot of money. And it is a lot of money to some people, but it's not that much more than the price of a good set of FPV goggles. And you're getting the transmitter, the screen, the plane, you know, the whole ready-to-go kind of package for the same sort of money. So in that respect, perhaps puts things in a little perspective. But what do I think of this thing? Well, I mean, there are cons. There are definitely some things wrong with it. LCD screen, it's okay for casual FPV, but you're not going to be doing serious FPV with this screen. It's too small. It only gives you a 10-degree field of view, whereas the Fat Shark goggles are 46 degrees. So this is like a quarter, not even a quarter the size of the Fat Shark image if you're holding it at normal viewing distance. The screen is highly reflective, which is bad, 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 bad. As you can see in this footage from the tranny cam, you know, the reflection off this can be absolutely awful, especially if you've got a big white beard like I have. So if you're going to fly in bright sunlight, not only do you have to think about positioning the transmitter, but you've got to wear dark clothing, and you don't want to wear a light hat like I did. because you get that reflection on the screen, makes it harder to see. And also this tiny screen, it's only 70mm, it's under 3 inches across, combined with the wide field of view of the camera makes it quite difficult to see ground detail, especially when the lighting is not right. So it's a brave attempt with this little screen and quite clever engineering with these little blinkers, but it'll work on a not too bright day, and but you're not gonna get the full FPV experience, because the other problem with it is you've got to keep pointing the transmitter at the plane, so you can't stay immersed in the FPV experience. You've got to keep finding the plane and pointing the transmitter to avoid those blue screens, the loss of signal, even though they're only sometimes quite brief. Now, other thing is stability system. While I'm talking about things I don't like, it's brilliant, isn't it? The plane is so stable for such a small model. It just sits there and it twitches a little bit, but just sits there as if it's suspended by strings. That's brilliant. But it's fine for the first couple of flights. And maybe for a beginner it'll be good for quite some time, but if you've flown models before, you'll soon find it's quite restrictive. Here's where I tried to do a really max rate turn by cranking over the aileron and the elevator, aileron and rudder, and it just looked like an ordinary turn because those gyros are fighting that turn all the way. You just don't get much responsiveness. It doesn't make it a responsive model. It's like flying a model through molasses. Everything, all your inputs are so slow to respond, and it feels just odd. If you already know how to fly model aircraft, it'll take a bit of getting used to flying this thing because it doesn't respond as you'd expect. If you're a first-time flyer, it won't be an issue. You've got no frame of reference. You'll probably find it real easy. Just steer the damn thing with the ailerons or the rudder. Piece of cake. Now, people have asked me, what's the range like? Well, the range is perfectly adequate, and that's all it needs to be. This is a very small model. You're not going to fly it a long way away because you'll lose sight of it. And if you can't lose sight of it because then you don't know where to point the transmitter to get the picture on the screen. So you're going to be flying it probably, 50 to 150, 200 meters away. That's really the maximum practical range. And the radio gear works fine over that. The FPV gear works fine over that range as long as you've got the transmitter pointed. As you've seen in the videos, it does drop out if you get the transmitter pointed the wrong way. So those are limitations you just have to live with. It's not a big deal when you're learning to fly FPV. Although, it's easy to fly too far. So, I don't know, maybe. See what happens when people have had a bit of experience with these things. The other things I don't like, as I say, this directional antenna, it's a pain to have to keep pointing this at the plane. And on the model, there's a little wire that hangs down below the fuselage like this, as you can see. It says in the manual you've got to make sure that wire is extended vertically beneath the plane before you launch it. And that's so you get a good FPV signal, good strong video signal. Unfortunately, every time you land the model, the antenna looks like this because it brushes on the ground and gets bent backwards. Now, as anyone knows who's played with a piece of copper wire, bent it backwards and forwards a few times, the copper wire soon becomes stiff and then it breaks. It gets metal fatigue because it work hardens at the point of flex and then it breaks. So I don't hold that much hope that that antenna will last more than maybe 20, 30 flights before suddenly, oh dear, it's broken. It may last longer, I don't know. And when it does break, it'll probably break inside the plastic sheath, so you won't know it's broken. You'll just find your pictures gone all crappy and intermittent on you. So something to watch out for if you're flying it. Cost of operating this thing on dry cells will send you broke. You've got to buy a rechargeable battery, some IMH batteries, or as I've done here, I've just put a 2-cell LiPo in there. It's a 1000 milliamp. It gives me 45 minutes before the battery gets worryingly low. So that's fine, that's good. There's enough for, 3 or 4 flights, and then you can charge this while you're charging the plane battery. That's fine, but be aware of it. Don't think you're going to put your cheap AA batteries in there and have some good flying. The manual is one of my gripes. The manual is, when I first looked at it, like Josh and Josh, I thought, well, it's concise, it's got nice pictures, what a wonderful little manual, but then I tried to read it, and the grammar is awful, it doesn't make sense in many places. Sometimes it tells you stuff you don't need to know, like helicopters. It doesn't tell you a lot of stuff you do want to know. For example, how do I turn off this stability system? If I want to fly that little plane around and have some fun with it, I can't. As I mentioned before, stability gets in the way. If there's a way to turn it off, I'd love to know that, because then I can fly it like an AXN, zip in and out of tight corners and have a lot of fun, a lot more fun than I can in the standard configuration. But the manual makes no mention of turning off the stability system, and I haven't heard of any way to do it. Also, supposedly you can use goggles with this thing. It's got a couple of jacks in the bottom, but I don't know if they're the ones you use. It's got an SD card slot, but I don't think there's anything in there. No mention at all of these plugs in the manual. It does say you can use a simulator. It doesn't tell you how to connect it up. And so if I wanted to plug some goggles in, where do I put them? Manual doesn't tell me. Manual is missing so much important information that really needs to be rewritten so that it's easy to read and makes sense and tells you what you need to know. Doesn't at the moment. Bad point. Finally, my last gripe about this thing is the quality control. All along, this particular unit's been dogged by quality control issues. There was the angle on the tailplane surface. There was the broken clevis. There were the wires trapped behind the stick unit on the transmitter. And here's another problem I encountered on about the second flight. Just after I did a very smooth landing and picked up the model, here's what happened. Having a spastic on me, like it didn't crash the plane. As you can see, the whole thing went berserk. The servo was jumping up and down, and input on the stick had no effect whatsoever. Basically, it lost its mind. I had to turn everything off, turn it on again, and then it was good as new, good as gold. It's happened twice now, and it happens just after landing. And these aren't hard landings. You can't really land this thing hard. It's so light and gentle. But gentle landings, and then it starts going berserk. So what is it? Is it a bug in the software that driven by the gyros? Because some of the stability software can be quite complicated. There's a lot of maths involved in getting a good stable stability system out of these modern gyros and processors and so forth. So maybe someone's slipped up and there's a bit of a bug in the software. Maybe it's just a faulty unit. Maybe I seem to get the faulty ones every time, so maybe mine is faulty. Either way, that's quality control again, because if there's a software bug, it should have been caught in testing, and if it's a faulty unit, one would have hoped that it would have been caught before it was shipped out of the factory. And I say it's done it twice in 12 flights, so it's not absolutely infrequently. Maybe they should soak these things a little bit so that people, you know, that any intermittent fault like that has a chance to show up. I don't know. So that's my gripes about the system. Now, what's good about it? Because people don't want me bitching and moaning all the time. What's the good things about this? Well, it works. It works, quality control issues aside, it works as advertised. You can buy the thing in the box, you can take it out, throw glue at the plane, toss some batteries in the back of this, and you can go FPV flying without wires and antennas and cables and cameras and all sorts of other things to worry about. It just simply works. And that, what more could you wish for? So if you're looking for a first-time FPV experience, whether you've flown models before or not, then you're going to get some value out of this thing. Where you're going to get $300 or $400 worth of value out of it, I can't tell you that, because only you can ascribe a value to what you'd get when you use this thing. I would say that there are a lot of people who will buy this and they'll be happy with it because they've got more time than money. Sorry, more money than time. And the amount of time it takes to set up an FPV model from scratch can be quite significant. And if you just want to go and fly the damn stuff, then $300 or $400 is nothing compared to weeks and weeks of farting around trying to get stuff going and then perhaps ending up with nothing more than a crash anyway. This will guarantee you a measure of success, and that's worth paying for sometimes. What else have I got on a list here? I've got, and it is easy to fly. It really is easy to fly. It doesn't fly like a normal model because of that stability system, but if you've never flown a model before, you'll be able to steer this thing around with the rudder and ailerons. You don't have to worry too much about it. You won't do hard landings. You probably won't hit things. But if you do hit things, it's so light, it'll just bounce off. It's not going to knock riders off their horses and tumble tall buildings into a pile of rubble or damage expensive cars. It's just so light it'll just bounce off. And probably little damage to the plane, little damage to whatever it hits. And that's a really, really good thing, because if these things sell in their thousands, we don't want a whole lot of people running around smacking into things and getting sued and bad press coverage, because that would mean that the authorities would probably say, no, we're going to ban FPV because it's too dangerous. Well, certainly flying the SpyHawk isn't dangerous at all. You're not going to hurt anybody. That's about it, really. That's my summary. So if you want an easy entry into the FPV scene, then this is one way to do it. And as I say, quality control issues aside and the little niggles that I've had, I mean, it does work as advertised. You will probably get a really good experience out of it. What am I going to do with this one? Well, I'm going to leave this one in the workshop, and when people come out and say, oh, that FPV looks interesting, I'm going to let them have a go, because I really think I can just give anyone off the street the little Hawk Spy. I'll get it in the air and say, there you go, just steer it with this. And that's what they'll do. And they'll probably go, wow, that's really great. I want to do more. And it's that good. It's that good little thing. Now, if you're a seasoned FPV flyer like I am, and you buy one of these, you're probably going to stick it in a cupboard after a couple of days and you won't touch it again, because the limitations are just too great. It is not an immersive FPV experience. You're not using goggles. There are too many limitations, having to constantly reposition the transmitter and keep an eye on the model. It's not what FPV is about when you've had some experience. And being only able to fly in calm to light wind conditions, because this thing is so slow it will blow away. If you try and fly it in a 15-mile-an-hour wind, it's going to blow away. You're not going to get it back. Those things are quite restrictive to someone who has flown FPV before. So I wouldn't recommend it to someone who's already got a Skywalker with a 1.2 gig video system and long range stuff. This is just a toy for you. But it's not a toy to someone who really wants to get in with a minimum of outlay of time. And that's where it will really sell, and it'll probably sell quite well. And speaking of selling, if you want to buy one of these, where do you buy one? Well, every man and his dog are now listing these and not taking pre-orders and things. But when you decide where to buy, you might want to think about one thing. This unit came from onlyflyingmachines.com. Ali Shanmao. He's got a YouTube channel. Most of you have seen it. Most of you subscribe to that. Now, he had the courage to send me this for review, and I told him it was going to be a no holds barred review. I wasn't going to, say nice things just because he sent it to me, which is what I don't do. I never basically give any points for people sending stuff in for me to review for free, because it's not my job. My job isn't to make them happy. It's to make you happy by telling you stuff you need to know. So I told Ali, no favors. I'll review it as I would if I'd bought it myself. He said, that's fine. So that's what I've done. I've reviewed it. And bearing in mind that he's the only person who sent me one of these, if you're looking for somewhere to buy one, why not go to his website and have a look and see what he's offering at least. I like to think that if people buy from the companies that support RC model reviews by submitting product for review, then maybe they'll send more product in. Maybe other companies will send stuff in. That means more stuff for me to review, more information to give to you so you can make informed choices, and hopefully the companies involved, if they send in good products, will end up doing more business. So everybody wins. So there you go, that's your Hubsan SpyHawk. Whether you buy it, whether you think it's good value, that's something only you can decide. I've showed you what's right with it, I've showed you what's wrong with it. Now you can make your own minds up. Thanks for watching.